Welcome to the 30-Minute Hour. It's the personal development podcast for entrepreneurs who are looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all-around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
That's right. Happy Monday. Monday is upon us again. The time is just flying. We're almost at the end of the first quarter of 2022, Ted.
Wow.
The year is 25% done almost. And so the question is, how are people doing with those goals they set? That's the real question, right?
Yeah, that's an important thing. How are they doing with the goals? Feel free to put it in the chat how you're doing. If you're crushing it, just put in the chat, I'm crushing my goals. If you haven't started, say I haven't started yet. I'm working on it.
If you don't remember what your goals were, just put that in the chat too.
That's right. That's right. Let us know. Let us know. It's not too late, though. It's not too late.
It's not. Luckily, the game isn't over in the first quarter. That's the beauty of it all. But sometimes you just have to seek clarity through reflection, Ted. You know, speaking of seeking clarity through reflection, we happen to have a coffee and conversation episode coming up. Coming Saturday the 12th at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to talk about goals and where you are and how do you ask yourself the right questions to get back on track. And if you are crushing it, if you are on track, how do you ask yourself questions that propel you to the next level? Really important. This is a critical time of year. Seeking clarity through reflection. Again, join us for coffee and conversation. It's going to be this coming Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern in the What Now Movement Facebook group. Make sure you check us out. Well, as you can tell, this is not your everyday podcast.
No, we do it a little different. If you haven't noticed,
we're a little different, and I feel bad. I didn't really prepare Heather for that backstage. We're a little odd here on the 30-Minute Hour.
We do a little different.
We do things a little differently. But certainly, you guys can check us out on our Facebook page, 30-Minute Hour Facebook page. We've got LinkedIn. We've got YouTube. Where you can check us out live. You can click the like button, put your comments in. You can ask Ted the most difficult question you can think of.
Bring it on.
That's right.
Bring it on. And I'll say this, Eric and Heather, I will have an answer. Guaranteed.
That's what Ted. Will it be the right answer?
Can't promise you that, but I will have an answer.
Absolutely. But no, again, we definitely want to dialogue. I see people logging on now from the What Now Movement and other places. Make sure you're putting your comments in the comments section. And don't forget, you can also listen to the replay of this episode and every other episode that we've done by going on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any of those other places that you like to consume your podcasts. So, Ted.
Yes, Eric.
I've got something that's on my mind.
Please share, Eric.
All right. So today I want to talk about the secret to creating a memorable brand. Right. The secret to creating a memorable brand. And I have this habit of just reading internet reviews from different businesses. I'm into branding and what's the company's brand. I read interviews to try to get a clue, and I look at a lot of different airline companies. And one thing I've noticed when I look at these airline companies, when I look at their reviews, like I've never seen like this 5-star raving review from an airline company where it says, the plane didn't crash, I arrived on time, and they didn't lose my luggage. I've never seen that.
No.
Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. And here's why I bring that up. It's very important. We're talking about the secret to creating a memorable brand. Here's what you really need to know about that. And this is where, Heather, we want people's undivided attention, right? Because a lot of people, they're listening to us while they're driving. We just need them to pull over to the side of the road. You're in the gym. You're on the elliptical. This is right now where we just need you to press pause on that elliptical. Ted, is there anything else that we need the people to do?
Put the ham sandwich down. No matter how good the sandwich is, Heather, if you haven't finished it by now, it's time to put it down because it's about to get good.
That's right. Put that ham sandwich down. Especially if you had a goal of stop eating ham sandwiches for this year. You definitely want to put the ham sandwich down.
You blew that.
That's right. Perfect opportunity to get back on track with your goals. All right. So the question on the floor is, like, what does this have to do with the secret to creating a memorable brand? Here it is. Don't confuse doing the bare minimum with being remarkable. Don't confuse doing the bare minimum with being remarkable, because your brand is the perception of the experience that the customer is going to have when they interact with you or when they interact with your business. That's your brand, right? The bare minimum isn't memorable. I'm sorry. You know, people aren't wowed by an experience they expect. You have to keep that in mind. And here's another great example. Again, Southwest Airlines. I saw this review. It says they went to the most ultimate extreme by presenting my fiance and I an entire bottle of our favorite champagne once they heard we had just gotten engaged. That's memorable, right? And that's why Southwest Airline makes money every year. That's why when you think of Southwest Airline, you think of the pilot saying something crazy over the over the microphone. Yeah. You know, they're different. It's memorable, and that's what you want to think about when you're creating a memorable brand. And you're in luck today, by the way, because we have a branding expert who's going to help you with that.
I like how you did that, Hank. A branding expert, man, this is great.
Absolutely. She's going to tell us everything about creating that personal brand and standing out. Let's get to it. So she is a marketing strategist and personal brand coach that lives and works in Chicago, Illinois. She draws from her over 20 years experience in brand marketing, research and development, and personal branding. And she brings a unique spin to understanding how a personal brand can impact business and personal goals. Her social media strategy expertise has been used by professionals and entrepreneurs in areas as diversified as financial wealth management, law, to nonprofit, professional speaking, education, consumer products, technology, and to startups. Please join me in welcoming to the 30-Minute Hour podcast, Heather Bennett.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on our show. It is truly an honor to have you on.
Likewise.
And congratulations to you for all the success and everything you've accomplished over the years. So I want to give everybody the background information as far as how we got to this point. So if we go back to your college days, you're a 19-year-old undergraduate. Like, what did you think you were going to be at that time?
Well, let's see. At that time, I was at Case Western Reserve University studying biology, minoring in chemistry, and double majoring in English. So I, at that point, was planning on going to medical school. During the course of my time there, I spent a lot of time in the labs working. It was work study. So part of one of my scholarships is I was working in the laboratory and really enjoyed the work. And then afterward, instead of going to medical school, I got a job working in a lab for Unilever, which is large, global company that has consumer products, which are in almost everyone's home. So great experience. I mean, just so definitely not, and where I am now, clearly not, a medical doctor, but that's something I think when you're 19, that's a lot to give a 19-year-old, the idea that you have to know what you're doing at that young of an age.
Yeah.
I have children who are in high school and college now, and I recognize that the jobs they will have when they graduate from college may not even exist now.
Wow.
So that really, given how fast technology and innovation is happening and what's going to be needed, it's good that I had that experience thinking that's what I wanted to do and that I don't now, because I think that helps me with my clients when they want to switch into a new career.
That's good, man. It's interesting. Most people we have on don't really know at early, and we have a few people that said, "Oh, I knew that this is what I wanted to do." But most people, they kind of have to go through a discovery phase. So if you're listening to us and you're in college, it's okay. You can still figure it out and get to where you need to be. Now, if you could go back and talk to that 19-year-old version of yourself, knowing what you now know, what advice would you give to that version of you?
Well, there's no one path to success, and there's no one right journey. It really has to come from being open and willing to learn along the way, and being awake and aware of when those opportunities, come in front of you, and being willing to, I guess, have the courage and the bravery to go ahead and take them. So it's easy, I think, growing up, you're told what to do and there's so many expectations, but honestly, just be open that, what you think you're supposed to be doing may not end up being the road that leads you to success.
No, that's great advice. Like one of the things that I think that could be helpful, like if you're a younger person, like you think you want to be a doctor, you think you want to be a lawyer, is to actually spend time with doctors and lawyers, right? And find out, do you like your job? What do you like about your job? And really get that might help change your mind.
Hey, Eric and Heather, I knew that whole medical field wasn't for me because I don't like to study blood much. I don't like to see my blood. I don't want to see no one else's blood. I don't even want to see blood that I know that's fake, like in a TV show. So I knew that whole medical thing. Yeah, that was not for me.
Yeah, it doesn't bug me. I ended up getting a EMT certification right after to be like a volunteer for EMT squad in New Jersey, and doesn't bug me. I'm happy to solve the problem, take a deep breath, and let's go.
So walk us down the path. I mean, how do you go from thinking you're going to be in medical school to being a creative brand coach? What was that journey like?
Yeah, so where we leave off. Yeah, Unilever. So I'm at Unilever working in a lab, research biologist, working on huge brands, doing great work, but being exposed to the business side of brands and understanding what the marketing people were doing. And I really liked what they were doing. I liked the fact that brands could connect with the end user, with the consumer in a way that was beyond just being helpful and solving a pain point for them, but having that emotional connection, which is why we're loyal to brands. It's because we have that emotional connection to the products, to what they provide, what they can show us. So at that point, I decided to go back and get my MBA and go full time. I started doing night school, and then started and looked at the time it was going to take to do that. And said, that's a long time. I think I need to go back full time because I'm ready for this right now. So then I got my degree and ended up working for consumer packaged goods companies, a bunch of them, well-known brands, Claussen and Pickles and Pyrex and VO5, well-known brands, $100 million brands. So love doing that work. As a side hustle, I had friends calling me and saying, oh, could you talk to my friend? Could you talk to my sister? Could you talk to my brother? They're having problems with starting a company, with their career, with, what they're doing with their lives. And you've always been so good at giving advice and having perspective and, laying out like a strategy, a plan in a way that's easy to understand and easy to follow. And so I said, well, I don't have an HR degree. I don't do career stuff. No, I do brand marketing. And they said, no. Just do what you do when you tell me, when I ask for your advice. And I started getting more and more of these side hustle clients. And so I eventually decided to leave the full-time job and do the side hustle full-time. And that was 18 years ago. So I started about 20 years ago. And after about 2 years of the side hustle, I was like, all right, I started seeing a lot of success with those clients and said, okay, well, clearly the way I'm looking at their business problems through the lens of a brand perspective is working. So, all right, let's do this. So we'll try it for a few years, see how it goes. And, 18 years later, I'm still doing it. So
Apparently it's going very well.
It is. Yeah. I love it.
It's interesting. I think that's a sign that you're on the right path. When people come to you, they keep coming to you for a certain thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's good confirmation that that's a path that you need to follow. So what exactly is a creative brand coach?
Well, I was talking to you earlier, Eric, about how I love your procrastination prevention partner. And the idea is to figure out a way to be memorable. Like your brand is very clear what you do. And, Ted, for yours as well, the super CEO, that is very clear because I know exactly what you do and why you're good at it. When I looked at both of your LinkedIns and looked at your websites, and those are so consistent and such a succinct way to explain what you do and why you're uniquely good at it compared to everyone else. So when I started my company and had to find a name for, naming a new startup is difficult. And so I wanted it to be memorable, descriptive, and to really show what was unique about my approach. Creativity is a huge part of what I do because it really speaks to innovation and problem solving, storytelling, all the things that make a brand and work well. And then with brand, of course, brand is the center of everything because the people I work with, their personal brands are the most important thing for me to focus on and to understand, and their business brand. If I'm helping an entrepreneur, is really focus on their brand. It really is the center of everything. So having it be the center word in that, so important. And then coach, of course, it's what I do. It's such a simple and succinct way to explain the advising, the teaching, the guiding, and the listening. A good coach listens and understands, that you need to really pay attention to what the person you're coaching needs and how they're responding. So I use that word, to really close the loop and really show like what made me unique about my methods and my abilities.
Awesome. So talk more about how a personal brand can impact someone's goal achievement and them achieving the success they want.
Yeah, well, personal branding really starts with self-awareness. And if you're looking to change careers or to start a business, you need to understand who you are first and what you're bringing to the table, what you're bringing to the game, what you need to work on or what you already have and you're good at. And to understand your experiences, like where you've come from. So having that self-awareness is such a key component of your personal brand. And then the next part, so you have that self-awareness first, and that helps you understand what you're bringing to the table. Then secondly, you need to think about who you're talking to. Who's your target market? Who's your customer, your consumer? And looking outward and seeing what needs they need you to fill and what they're looking for to come from you. And then how you're showing up with that, what the communication is in terms of what's the messaging, how you're telling them who you are and what you do well, and then communicating in a way that really resonates with them and helps them to understand. If you don't have a strong personal brand, you're not able, and you don't understand it and take the time to understand it, you're not going to be able to communicate with them, and that shuts down the whole lead generation, shuts down the whole sales funnel of how you're able to serve those people, how you're able to meet their needs. So that's how I see personal branding as a business, as it being a business tool that you need to really hone and do well.
Do you find that there's kind of this incorrect thought out there that if I'm just great at what I do, I make the best widget in town, that should be good enough, right? I'm just great. I make the best burger in town. I can compete with McDonald's. I don't need a personal brand. Can you expand on that?
No, yeah. So the issue is there's a lot of noise out there. Even if you think about how much information we are consuming on a daily basis, it is higher than it's ever been in history. And the idea that that noise is just going to increase and be more rapidly. I mean, we do you remember, you guys are probably a bit younger than me, but there was a time when the only way someone could reach you on the phone is if you were in the house next to the phone. And you couldn't go any further because there's only so long. I mean, you could buy the longest cord and you stretch it out, but it gets tied in knots and you can't get very far. But nowadays they can reach us everywhere. We could be in our car and the billboards are talking to us. They can reach us, on our phones. They can reach us through our computers. So with all this information coming at us, you really have to make some noise, and you have to figure out a way to strategically get directly to that person who needs to hear your message and needs to get you, because they won't know who you are. So that's really why it's so important right now.
Great point. Great point. So I know you mentioned Ted and I just as some examples, but what other examples do you see out there of people that have nailed it? Maybe, celebrity entrepreneurs, what have you. But what are some examples? Just because I want our entrepreneur audience to really understand what the right personal brand looks like.
Yeah. So the one example I almost always use is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, because he's just fabulous, and his Amy Jo Martin is his personal brand advisor and his strategist, and she's just done a brilliant job with him consistently being represented in everything he does. I mean, if you're hearing his voice, if you're seeing him on a show, in a movie, I mean, he is so consistent, and he gives you exactly, what to expect. And you understand what he stands for and what's important to him. And it's very, very obvious. So that's probably one of my favorite examples.
Yeah, that's a good one, since not too many people on planet Earth who don't know who he is. That's
exactly. But it's also important for people to understand that it's not just celebrities who need a personal brand. Everyone does. If you're in business, if you're selling anything, if you're working with clients, even in just working with vendors, you want to make sure that the people that you do business with and for know who you are.
Yep, that's important. So, okay, Heather, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm watching this episode. This all sounds great, but what do I need to do to become aware of what my personal brand is?
Well, the first step is pretty simple. Google yourself. Honestly, Google yourself. Look at your LinkedIn profile. Get down on paper. And I say it on paper because I think people learn when they write things down, or in a spreadsheet, write down everywhere you are being seen online. Start there. And really, a personal brand is not only what you're doing online from a digital social media perspective, but it's also how you show up. So what does your business card look like? When you go to networking events, how are you presenting yourself? What are you wearing? What are you saying? Which networking events are you going to? What signage do you use? It's really about so much more than just digital media, but I'd say start with digital media for sure.
It's pretty interesting. I've been trying to say something for the last 5 minutes. I'm like, well, Eric just won't let me get anything in, but I've been muted. Right? So I was like, man, I had a good point there. But it's interesting that we're having this conversation. I was having a discussion with a young man that I know that's going to be interviewing with a marketing company. Right. And so we had some conversation around it, and I was telling him, I said, there's going to be 10, let's say there's 10 people going after an opportunity here, and you're one of the 10. Like, how are you going to stand out? And your interview is going to be virtual. like what are you going to do? How are you going to present that? And so we just started coming up with some different concepts. We looked at the company's website and what was important to them. And there was a lot of things within his experience that tied directly with, what that company was all about. And so we talked about, saying, why don't you try to, do it as a presentation? It's a marketing company. That's what they're about, is marketing and presentation. And why not try to drive the discussion, come in there as with someone. If it was face to face, there's going to be some people that are coming in with their portfolio of experience, where you're not going to have that opportunity doing it virtual. So maybe you have a PowerPoint that kind of shows who you are and how you fit within that organization, and and just just being able to just really show your brand, show that your brand is creativity, show your brand is being innovative, that it's forward thinking. I mean, that's what I'd want to see, because he's going to have an opportunity to interview with the president of that marketing organization. So you got this one chance to really show him that that you're a perfect fit for the organization.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've been working with a lot of people. There's a lot of people getting hired right now. There's a lot of jobs open out there, which is exciting. But yeah, being able to connect your personal mission in life to the mission of the company, extremely important. Doing your homework ahead of time. We have this wonderful resource, the internet, that you can go and see who the company is, and a lot of times they'll have information on their employees, not as much as they used to, but a lot of times they do. Get to know what they're doing, get to know their competitive set, who are their biggest competition, and what are they doing, and how are they unique from them. Just understanding. And LinkedIn, I mean, by all means, go on LinkedIn. Who you're probably going to be interviewing with. Why not spend some time researching them and figuring out how you can connect with them? Because they'll remember that connection more than they'll remember all the rest of like your degree or your experience. They're going to remember your connection and the stories you tell with the questions they ask you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think you set yourself apart, because most people won't do that. I'm still amazed. Most people won't do a simple Google search before they go into an interview. And if you go in and you're prepared and you've done research and you've taken that extra step of finding out what you have in common on LinkedIn, I mean, just that'll set you apart. But you mentioned storytelling. Talk more about that. What role does storytelling play as far as getting your brand out there and being memorable?
Well, definitely. The best story anyone can tell is their elevator pitch. So, that's the first story everyone should work on. And that's, really definitely, that's pretty much showing like, what is your personal brand? It's sharing it in an easy way, who you are, how you help people, what you're looking for. And that's it. It's quite simple. So, but having that down and understanding, how to make yourself memorable. And whether that is telling like a little mini story in the middle of it, it's worth doing. And then beyond that, storytelling, especially like we're talking about interviews, it's so key. They're going to ask you the question, like, how did you handle a challenge? Or, what was, give me a team situation that you worked in a team that wasn't functioning well, or, there's really those standard questions. If you can tell that answer in a story that brings it to life and makes it more memorable, it's definitely worth doing. If to just say like, I helped people fix this problem, that's not very exciting. But if you can paint a picture like, oh my gosh, we were, it was the Q4, we had to make our numbers, there was this issue, and you start bringing that excitement and that energy in a more polished story that engages them, they'll remember it and they'll choose you because not only will they enjoy the story, but then they'll want you representing their company when you go out and explain why their products and services are the one to choose over everyone else's.
So you really brought that to life. So you're saying really bring it to life with the story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the power of the story is that if you're telling a personal story, it's unique to you. Right? It's different.
That's a good point.
The person that's happened to. So Yeah, I think more and more. I think if you're a great storyteller, that can take you a long way as far as crafting that personal brand. But as we're talking about, we're here with Heather Bennett. I see people with shout out to Kenneth Trey Young and Frank Dunn, and I see other people logging on. We're here talking to Heather Bennett. We're talking about your brand and telling your story. So Heather, what is unique about you? This is a crowded field, right? This personal branding space.
Yeah.
So what is your unique spin? What makes you different from the other people that do the same thing?
Let's see. For one thing, I've been doing this for a long time. So, so I was doing personal branding before it existed. I talk about 20 years ago there wasn't personal branding, but brand marketing was the only way I knew how to solve business problems. So I applied everything through the lens of brand marketing, including working with my clients. And that's how personal branding started, because I realized, especially with we talked about, said you were mentioning entrepreneurs. Especially with entrepreneurs, they are the original and the most powerful salesperson for their startup. And given that, if they can really connect to their passion and who their personal brand is, like why they're doing this, why they created this company, to their sales, to their communication, to their website, to how they're even packaging their products, that will make them successful. So for me to have started doing that well before people were really thinking about it, it was so great. About 10 years in, all of a sudden people were talking about personal branding. And I was like, yes, that's what I do. Great. I have people now. This is wonderful. It was very exciting because it's become much more mainstream that people understand. It was hard to explain what I did and why it worked a long time ago. Now it's much easier. So that part of it is me standing out is I've been doing this for a long time. And then, secondly, one of the things I find I do that's unique compared to other people with personal branding is I kind of flip it and do a reverse where I really focus on the target market and that level of communication. So a lot of people, personal branding will just focus, okay, let's focus on the person and you're a celebrity and, what makes you an influencer or whatever. But I think first and foremost, after you have that self-awareness, is to focus on that target market. What do they need? What are they looking for? Where are they even located? Half the problem with the message is if you don't put it, get it to the right place. If the mail doesn't ever arrive in the mailbox, nobody's going to read it. So you have to figure out where that target market is and really go after them. So getting to know your target market. So I'd say those are the two things that really make my approach unique.
It's interesting. Marketing has always seemed kind of straightforward to me. Like when I was in college, like marketing classes always just seemed easy to me, right? Like just the whole strategy and concepts around that. But I think about it now with like social media, and you have all types of people that are getting all this attention and followers, and a lot of them have not even been in a marketing class or anything, but they figured out a way to get that target audience and to get them to follow. And a lot of times I know that it's constant content that they're putting out there, but I guess that they pick up the content that audience wants to see. And next thing you know, you see this person with a million followers, and you're just like, wow, how'd they do this? So how did this kid do that? Right? Like they're not even out of elementary school, right? And they have all these, these followers and sponsors and all of that. I mean, any thoughts around that?
Well, it's three things. Consistency, you mentioned it. You need, your target audience needs to know where you're going to show up and where to see you. So it's consistency. Secondly, keywords. If you're using the language that they are looking for and they're listening for and actively seeking, you're going to show up for sure. And then it's the other thing is really understanding your target market. I think, you give the example of these young kids who are able to get all these followers. Well, the reason is because they understand who that group is. They understand what they need, what they're looking for, why they're paying attention to them. So it's really those three things. You can do consistency, keywords, and then figuring out what your audience needs.
Yeah, that's great.
So how does one go about creating a tagline that works for them? Just something that they can put out there and it really helps them stand out.
That takes effort. There's a reason why we need advertising agencies to come up with all this, and we need creators and writers. It's start with the keywords for sure. Like what are people talking about in your industry? Because then you'll show up. And then for taglines, a lot of times it's really going to those testimonials and really asking, like doing a 360 review with the people you've worked for, or the people who've hired you, and asking them, well, why, what do you enjoy about working with me? And trying to get those words and understanding, because they'll tell you what makes you stand out. And it's hard always, it's hard to, you need sometimes somebody from the outside to look in. I think that the analogy I've heard is it's really hard to read the label on the jar when you're inside the jar. So the idea that sometimes you need someone on the outside to really give you that clarity. I think, I know, Eric, you're really good about talking about clarity in a lot of your podcast episodes. And that's definitely something that is hard to get from the inside always.
And that's a great example. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, on previous episodes, I shared the story of how when I started out as a speaker, I was going around with my business card, and the business card said motivational speaker. Finally, one of my mentors was like, "Come on, Eric, you gotta do better. This isn't gonna work for you." Everybody, there's 1,000 people in this room, and they're all motivational speakers.
Yeah. It's funny though. I think a lot of people, like they think and they know they're great, and they just assume everyone else does as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here. I gotta be great. I gotta be awesome. I'm here speaking, right? You're here watching. For now, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So Heather, please share with us like your most memorable client success story. Somebody that you really helped them nail their personal brand.
Well, this is okay. So this is a good example. I was working, for a CEO of a PR marketing media firm, and she understood what her personal brand is, but she wasn't communicating it. And the reason she wasn't, such a unique situation, that's why I like using this example, because it's not expected. She wasn't using her personal brand to choose the services she was offering her clients. So there was a disconnect between, she had a great personal brand, but then what she was trying to sell in terms of what she offered, what her services and products were, did not match. And it wasn't, I was like, she had all this stuff up on her website. I said, is this really what you're doing? She's like, oh no, I do this little thing on the side most of the time, or this is where I'm getting the most traction. This is where I've really been able to grow my business. I said, then that's what you should be doing. So take all these other services and stuff that are really not serving you, and they're really not displaying what makes you unique and why you're so successful. Get rid of them. Let's focus on the 2 or 3 things that you do really well and that you really show up and give, to your clients and really make their businesses thrive. So that's how we were able to use her personal brand to guide her business going forward. And it's working. And I know, when did I see her last? Gosh, like 6 months ago. We were at a networking event and she's doing great. Wow. So for me, that's always like I love seeing my clients like a year, 5 years, whatever down the line, and being able to see the success and that the work and the time we spent together worked, and that they're still using the methods and what we laid out. So that'd be one example.
I think that's a great example. It just speaks to the need to invest in coaching, invest in expertise, especially when you talk about your brand and how crucial that is. And if you get it right, it can really help you to get to that next level.
So Heather, what are some of those things that you could share without giving away the secret sauce, right? In say your first session with a client.
Let's see. Well, first sessions nowadays tend to be, let's look at your LinkedIn and see, let's look at your LinkedIn and then, goals. Like what is your goal? What do you want out of our time together? Is it a new career? Is it planning for, creating a startup? Is it getting a promotion in your field, getting recognized? Is it becoming a key opinion leader? Like what is that goal? And really, making sure you can articulate what that goal is, making sure, it's all the smart things, the measurable, attainable, in a timely manner, all of that, making sure that it's really it's a real goal. And then normally that's enough for the first session with me.
That was a great point that you hit on of that individual that's already in an organization and he or she is trying to establish that brand. Like they're already in there, right? Like, so, but I'm trying to move up. I want them to see me. Am I trying to reinvent myself, or am I, trying to highlight like really who I am so other people really don't know like who, Eric Twiggs is, right, in the organization.
I really believe that that's an area in personal branding that I've definitely been spending more time talking about, writing about, is not just the job seekers, the people or the entrepreneurs who are going out there for a big career change, but the people who want to keep their job and want to grow within the organization. And, it's important, I think, for the C-suite, for executives to understand that developing and supporting the personal brands of your employees is so important. I mean, we have this whole great resignation issue right now where we're having employee engagement issues. And if you want to engage your employees, then show them that you're going to support them moving up and advancing and growing within your organization. Having a strong personal brand helps those employees do that, just that. If they have a strong personal brand, then they will be able to find those opportunities for growth, whether it's crossing into a new division or a new department, or getting that promotion. Yeah. So yeah, that's something I feel like personal branding is moving more and more towards. People are understanding that it's not just for the job seeker, it's not just for the celebrity or the influencer. It can be within an organization, within a company.
Wow. So what do you think? Like the impact of people being like virtual, like for the past 2 years, and now that they're going back into the office, like you doing something different now? You kind of, what do you think the impact of this time kind of outside the office in the virtual world is, it's going to be like as people are starting to go back in?
Yeah, I think we're definitely not going back. I don't think that we'll go back to the way things were. Hybrid for most people who can work from home is going to be the more realistic option for employers and employees. So yeah, it's all about relationships. In order to get a team in a business to work well, they need to have relationships with each other. And yeah, we've lost the water cooler discussion. So I think that's going to be the big beneficial part of, going back into the office. But it could also mean, better familiarity with the technology. Now that we're more familiar with the Zoom, I believe that there are opportunities there to create that water cooler conversation. Maybe it is like, Friday Zoom parties or something at 4:00 or 3:00, where everyone just takes like a half-hour break and gets together and gets, mixed up in breakout rooms so you can get to know the people that you work with better. So I think those are the employers that are going to do well. The business owners that are going to do well are the ones who understand that you need to find ways to facilitate getting your employees to know each other and having those relationships.
Yeah, you're definitely gonna have to do that, because I know some businesses that just have decided during the pandemic to go 100% virtual. So they're not even gonna, so going back for the 1 or 2 days in the office is not even a possibility,
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So tell us about something that was hard 18 years ago when you started that's still hard for you today.
Oh gosh. Pricing.
We come with the tough questions here, Heather.
I know you do. You definitely do. I'm not getting off easy tonight, huh?
Oh, no.
Pricing is hard. Understanding what the market will bear, what my value proposition is, what I need to provide my clients with and how much to charge them. It's never an easy question. Yeah, it's a difficult area for me. But yeah, I would say that's consistently over the last days. It's just something I have to constantly work on. It's a moving. You're running a business. I mean, there's numbers involved. There's a bottom line. You have a budget. So realistically, you have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, I like asking that question because people think that, okay, once you get to a certain level, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about that anymore. But it can still be a challenge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good. So let's talk about your book. So, Fun and Fulfilling Careers, One Question at a Time. Yeah. Great title. What will people gain by reading that?
It's really a collection. Well, here's the story. I'll tell you why I wrote the book, because I think that tells what people will get from it. So there was, I guess this was about, oh gosh, it's been 4 years ago. I had this period of like 7 months where every client I was talking to, friends, family, colleagues, networking friends, were all telling me, oh, I love the way you talk about this. I love the way you do, business, the way your methods and your exercise, they're great. I had a workbook at the time. So when I'd be at retreats or workshops or with my clients, I'd say, oh, I love your workbook. But those stories you tell in between and the way you describe things and how you explain the importance of each exercise. Could you just write that down and write a book? And I'm thinking, I'm running multiple businesses. I got a lot going on. Where am I going to find time to do this? But I kept getting asked. So finally, I'm okay, fine, I'll write a book. So it took me about 3 years to write the book because I wanted to do a good job, and I wanted to do the research behind why I did the different exercises and why it was important. So it was a lot of reading psychology and business journals and understanding and business books and really understanding what the science and the reasoning behind everything was. So what they'll gain is, basically I walk them through my basic process, my entire process, get to know yourself, do the work of the self-awareness, understand who you are, what your personal brand is. I have exercises that guide people into how to talk about that, how to do an elevator pitch, how to rewrite your LinkedIn profile so that it reflects that. Because I think a lot of times we could talk about it, but you really need to dig deep. I love that you asked the question about what your 19-year-old self is, because one of the first things I do with my clients is ask them, what were you like as a child? What did you enjoy doing? When there wasn't the mortgage to pay, when there wasn't the bills to pay, when there wasn't that, what did you choose to do with your time? What interested you? Because a lot of times you'll find that there's themes and abilities or interests that will come all the way through to their adult life and what they're doing now. You just need to find that line. And then that helps them get back to who they are at their core. So it really is a step-by-step guide. And I put fun in the title because I wanted it to be fun. I pushed my structural editor. She is brilliant and awesome, and I'm so grateful for her because I pushed her hard and I said, I want this to be a fun read. I want people to enjoy it. I don't want this to feel like work. And because life is hard enough. And then when you're in a point in your life where you're in a career transition, there's a lot to worry about. So it's I want to make this enjoyable. So I really focused on making it an easy, fun read. So the way the book's set up, it's little essays that get you thinking about some concepts like what you should be doing, what your skills are, what your talents, maybe where you're needed in the world. And then it's very specific exercises. So I always tell people, get a notebook, write it down, write down your answers to this, really, type it into a file. I'm working on a workbook that will be a companion to this so that they have an easy place to write this down, but you can just use a notebook. And then it really helps them to understand better what they should do next. So it really goes from all that thought process and then walks them through to the actual action plan of how to get it done.
Excellent. Now it sounds like a book that people need to get. Fun and Fulfilling Careers, One Question at a Time. How can people get that book? Because now, our followers are like, man, I've got to get that book.
It's on Amazon, ebook and paperback. So easy to get to.
All right. Good. So we're now at Ted's favorite part of the show. Write this down. This is where we each go around and we leave just that final closing thought that we want people to write down so they can level up. So Heather, you're the guest of honor. What's something from today that people need to, our entrepreneurs who are watching us, they need to write down?
Okay, so what I would have them write down is that they need to understand they can actively change their success by understanding what their personal brand is, and that you need to take the time to think about who you are, both online and offline, and how you're representing yourself. And that, exactly what you said, Eric, investing in a coach or investing in that higher level of learning to understand who you are and your passion and why you're doing this, so important. Money well spent, for sure.
Absolutely. You have to make the investment. And when you start paying, you'll start paying attention.
That's a good one. I like that one.
That's true. Think about it. If you're taking a class for free, it's like, oh yeah, okay. You start, your money's on the line. Like, oh no,
I got to get in there. I got
to make this happen.
That's right.
That's skin in the game. Good. No, I think that's fantastic advice. So Ted, write this down. What you got?
So the focus is really on how to stand out in a crowd, like as a whether it's as an employee, whether that's trying to move up the ladder in an organization, whether it's someone that's trying to get a company off the ground. How are you going to be able to stand out in the crowd to whoever that is that matters for you at that time, right? Whoever that executive is in the organization that has the ability to bring, to elevate you, or that potential customer. What do we have to do, to stand out in the crowd? Again, you always have to assume that there's some real awesome people that are being considered, some real awesome companies that are being considered. So what do you do to stand out in the crowd if going up against some others that are really, really good? And you have to really give some thought to that. And, and as you talked about a coach that could, help you with some ideas and concepts. And I think the point that you made, Heather, I know I'm saying a whole lot, so you're probably not going to get to write all of this down. But, when you made that illustration of being inside the jar, right? Sometimes you're so close to yourself or to your company that you just can't see what someone else can see in you, and whatever that brand is. Last thing, I was having some conversations about, things that you see on television in those brands, right? Whether it's the jingle with the song, or their logo, and just all of that stuff that just ties to that. And I even always use the example of Chick-fil-A. I think that they owe me a check, but the whole "my pleasure, how may I serve you?" They're fast food. It's good, but the thing that people really think about is really that service. And their service was pandemic proof, right? They just took everything from inside and put it outside and didn't miss a beat when other businesses really struggled, to be able to stay on, to stay on track. And so, what are you going to do with that that brand? How do you differentiate yourself? I mean, we've talked about all of that. And again, just, your services, offerings, whatever, how do you stand out in the crowd?
No, that's great. Great. Write that down. So for me,
look, don't ask me to say it again. Right? A little different. It'll have some of the same, aspects in it, but it won't be the same.
Yeah. So for my version of write this down, I just want to summarize this by saying that everything starts with self-awareness. Everything starts with self-awareness. And definitely if you're trying to make sure your brand, you have a compelling personal brand, you need to be aware of how you're showing up. Right? And it's good to have feedback. Right? Have systems around you where you're getting feedback as far as how you're showing up. I mean, it can be as simple as looking at your 5-star reviews or look at your reviews, period. Is there something that everybody is always saying? What about mentors, getting feedback from mentors who are going to be brutally honest with you? And the same thing, getting a coach. Right? I just think it's so important to really nail this branding thing is to really be self-aware of how you're showing up. Because I think to get to where you're going, you have to know where you are. Write that down.
Boy, you get good with these little sayings.
Good, I know.
Look at you.
Oh man! Now this is just an awesome opportunity to be able to talk to our entrepreneurs and to have a great guest like Heather, who's a branding expert, sharing so much great content and information. So Heather, how can people connect with you and get more information?
I am on LinkedIn often and always. So definitely Heather H. Bennett on LinkedIn. I have a website, heatherhbennett.com. And my business website, of course, is creativebrandcoach.net. But another way to reach me conversation is on Twitter. It's creativebrandch. So that's an easy way to reach me as well.
Awesome. I just have a feeling people are going to be reaching out. I need some coaching. I need that book. I got to get my brand together. I need a tagline. I need help with my story. Heather, help.
What's the other one, Eric? Can I just run something by you?
Can I pick your brain?
Can I pick your brain?
Oh yeah.
If you want to pick your brain, I mean,
always.
If they say they want to pick your brain, they're not going in their pocket. This will pick your brain.
Yeah.
Hey, this could be a coaching opportunity. If you have a mentor or someone you want advice for, don't ask to pick their brain.
No.
Right? That sends the message that you want free information.
Yeah.
What is it, Eric? Pick a payment option.
Right. Yeah, sure. You can pick a method of payment. But no, so Heather, again, thank you for everything that you shared. And speaking of sharing, don't forget to share the show.
Share
the show.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Share the show. Heather gave us some great information today. Make sure you spread it around and help people with their personal brand. That's our time for today. Make sure you join us next Monday at 7:00 Eastern time here on the 30-Minute Hour podcast. Again, don't forget, you can go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those other places and listen to a replay of this episode. Until next time, have a great one.